Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is actually our first YouTube where we're doing a Zoom interview. I am quite excited because it's actually the first one that we're doing on Zoom for exam series as well. So if you are new here, please subscribe. I am Zanella Madonna. I am a chartered accountant and I'm from Novalo Learning Center, and all we do is to empower aspiring chartered accountants. Today, I have an exciting guest. We're going to talk about something that everyone is struggling with, and honestly, I didn't know how I can help you with that. So that's why I brought you someone who can actually say a thing or two about that. So before we get into who our guest is and what she's going to help you with, I just want to say, actually, no, let's just get into it. Let's just get into who our guest is, and then we'll talk about the topic. But I know if you clicked on this video already, you know what the topic is. But then let me just get into it. Nthabiseng, how are you?
Hi, Zanele. Thank you so much for having me on your YouTube channel. I'm very, very excited to be here. I'm great. Thank you. And how are you?
I'm all right. Like, this Zoom thing is so weird because, you know, we're recording now. People are going to watch later, but it's like, it's just me and you. Yet we have to talk to the people.
True.
Okay, so guys, Nthabiseng, how I met Nthabiseng, we met at Wits, and you know, it's so weird how people would say the people you meet at varsity, that is the network that, you know, that's going to be your net worth eventually. And when you're going through it all, because you're facing the fires and everything, you don't even think that anything will happen in the future. Because it's just, I think, a month ago or weeks ago, when my partner Tsulo actually saw your post on LinkedIn, and he actually told me, he was like, oh my gosh, do you know Nthabiseng from Wits? She's actually doing something that is similar to what you're doing at Novalo Learning Center. And he was like, oh my gosh, you have to like totally check her out. And I am so glad that when I reached out to you, you actually, you know, you responded English, Nthabiseng. Yo, especially when you're doing the
our
YouTube
mother
video.
tongue.
When you're doing the YouTube video, it's like, it goes. But then I'm glad you responded, and you responded with so much kindness, and you're willing to hear what we are all about. And I was also excited to hear what you're all about. So before we also talk about that particular post that brought us together, let's talk about your journey. Who is Nthabiseng? Where are you from, and what are you currently doing?
So I'm Nthabiseng Makunyane. I am a recently qualified chartered accountant. I did my articles at BDO, completed 2019. And at BDO, I mean, I was a trainee representative. I was voted trainee of the year in 2019. So I was very close to my fellow trainees. What else did I do? I went on secondment at the beginning of this year. I then had to come back, unfortunately, due to COVID. But actually, I should say fortunately, because it gave me the opportunity to now start CA2B. And it's been a great journey. So that's what I'm doing right now. And we'll talk about more of that, I guess, when we go into the topic in depth.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I like the fact that you actually went to a BDO, because so many students come into my DMs and they're always saying, Zanele, please advise me. Should I go to the Big Four? Should I not go to the Big Four? Should I go to the banks? You know, what's the stage, right? So at least with me and you, because I'm also from a medium-sized firm, which is Mazars, and you from BDO, so they can also, you know, gauge whether this is something that they actually like. And even when they go and follow you, they can even ask more questions about training at such a firm. So based on that, actually, before we even take it back, you just said you went on secondment. Did you go on secondment with BDO, or did you go on secondment with another firm?
I went on secondment with an independent agency. It's called SAPRO, Staffing Accountants. So they were looking for CAs or anyone who is going to become a CA to go overseas and consult on an auditing level. So I approached them, in fact, and they said, okay, that's okay. Where do you wish to go? So I told them I would like to go to New Jersey or New York or Los Angeles. And they said, perfect, let's do rounds of interviews. And it was a process. It was a long process. And thankfully they accepted me. And then I went on secondment to New Jersey it was supposed to be 4 months. Then it was cut short to 3 months. So yeah, that's basically, yeah, it's amazing opportunity either way. Really, really amazing opportunity. Yeah. So I couldn't necessarily go with BDO. They only did long-term secondments, which was not what I was looking for at that moment. So that's the only reason why I didn't go with BDO. But BDO is great. Yeah. And you're so right in terms of medium-sized firms versus big four. That is a very big decision that you need to consider for yourself. So definitely, if you're willing to, or if you have any questions, any advice that people would like to hear about that, I'm very much open to give it.
Awesome. Because I know that was going to be the next question. They're going to ask, okay, does it mean if you had to go to an independent institution, does it mean BDO didn't offer anything? But I'm glad you cleared that out. Okay, so what we know currently is that you were like a top trainee and you qualified in 2019, you went on secondment, and now you're doing your own thing. So, okay, that is all great. And I'm sure people are like, oh my gosh, like, I want to be like Nthabiseng. But obviously, our audience is aspiring CAs, and they want to know, Nthabiseng, they want to know when it comes to, when it comes to your journey to being a CA. Yes, you're like the best trainee ever. But then when it comes to that journey, even before you started training, just take us back a bit. Let's talk about why did you decide to be a CA actually?
Yes. Yeah. That is a very valid question. So, I mean, I went to Wits, like you mentioned, we met at Wits. When I went to Wits, I had initially wanted to study linguistics and international relations or marketing, anything of that sort. But my grandfather said, no, just consider accounting, look at accounting, look at this journey of being a chartered accountant, because that is something that he felt will work for me in the future. So I said, I don't think this is for me. I'm not sure. But I mean, he was paying my fees, so I had to do what he said. So fast forward at Wits days, I, enrolled, and I struggled. I struggled a lot with accounting, specifically accounting. Every other subject, funny enough, was okay. So I had given up numerous times, and I told myself, you know what, I'm not good enough for this. I don't think it's what I want to do, and I don't see myself becoming that. But my granddad was very, very involved in telling me, look, this is what you're doing. Find a way to make it work. And I said, okay, fine. So if I'm here and I'm studying this chartered accountancy, I'm in this field, what can I benefit from this? And I thought to myself, my eventual goal, whether I'm a CA or not, is to be in business. Whether it's any type of business, I just wanted to be in business. Then I thought, okay, so how does accounting and auditing, tax and management accounting, how do those tie into business? Then I thought, but that is business. If I know how to do my accounting, how to do my tax, how to manage my business, how to do the finance, then I know how a business operates. So I thought, okay, so that is what pushed me then to eventually want to become a chartered accountant, because you can't just become a chartered accountant if you don't want to be a chartered accountant. So that's what pushed me to be that.
Nthabiseng, that is actually, wow, you just touched on something that I didn't even expect you to hit, you know, those lines so early in this conversation. But wow, like that's, I feel like that's like drop mic. Okay, the episode is over. You can, wow.
Yeah.
Nthabiseng, like that's a whole, like, really, we can stop it here now. Like, really, like, that is so important, and that's what people don't realize. That's what people don't realize. Like, you wouldn't be a chartered accountant unless you want to be a chartered accountant, because it's not easily laid out for you. Like, the journey is not as easy to an extent that anyone can get. Just like being a millionaire, a billionaire. You have to want to be a millionaire, want to be a billionaire, unless if obviously you were born into it or something like that. But then the CA, you can't be born into being a CA. Like, it's one of those things. Like, you have to work for it. You have to want it enough. Oh my God. So I like the fact that at least you had your grandparent who even knew about such a stream. Wow, you have a woke grandparent, which is quite exciting. And you did say that there are times that you felt like giving up. So in your journey, undergrad, CTA, board exams, where would you say was that, you know, like the low points? What was like, you know, that year where you felt like, oh my gosh, like, this is not happening. Like, I'm gonna pack my bags and go home. Which one was that?
It was definitely in my second year at Wits. I remember very clearly the whole year I was struggling with financial accounting too. I just couldn't grasp it. I was also not taking responsibility for my studies because, you know, I was partying, I was having fun, and there were subjects that I felt were easy enough for me, but the one that I struggled with the most, I specifically did not pay attention to it at all. So what happened was, the lowest point was when I was preparing for a test. I think it was in the second semester already. So, you know, if it's in the second semester, chances are, you know, time is flying and you need to make sure you know, get in line, basically. And at that point, I was not getting in line. I'd given up completely. I said, no, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. It's hard, it's in my mind. And then I didn't even study. I didn't study for that test. And I failed dismally, like bad fail. And when I got my mark back, then I realized, you know what? I can't keep getting marks like this. This is not a good enough mark. And if it's a low mark like this, that means I failed the year. That means I failed that subject for that year. And that hit me very, very hard. So at that point, when I completely failed financial accounting 2, I thought to myself, you know, I'd given up. I said, so what? You know, maybe I should change. Maybe I should change courses, change degrees. And at that point, I had gotten as far as I did. And I thought, if I change, what am I changing to? Too much admin, you know, fees must be paid also. So I had to be considerate of that. So I decided third year, or I had to repeat second year, first of all. And that was not great, but it was the push that I needed, because sometimes you don't realize what you have until you lose it, which is what happened to me. I didn't realize I had this opportunity, and then I lost it by failing. But then luckily for me, I could repeat it. So when I did repeat it, I said, okay, but you can't make that same mistake. You can't keep getting these marks. You have to change something. You have to try to do something. At least get the degree, is what I used to tell myself. Please get the degree, you know? So I had to then, you know, talk to myself, be honest with myself, say, what are you going to do differently? How are you going to change? How are you going to study better? How are you going to change your attitude towards this accounting that you're struggling with. And so, but like I wasn't the only one that was struggling as well. There were other Witties who were also struggling. So we came together and we spoke about our failures, and we decided then to pick it up and keep it moving.
That is actually great, because almost every guest they like talking about CTA. So this is the first time I actually have someone who's like, actually second year was the worst. And I love that, because you know, in my DMs, in my comment sections, people are complaining about first year, people are complaining about second year. And even for me, I can sit here and be like, oh, CTA. But then even when I was in second year, I thought it was like the worst one. But just because I had to go through all the others, you know, I can't remember that one specifically. But for you, I like the fact that that is the one that actually, you know, that you remember, because you had to repeat the whole year for it. So I really like that, because now for the second years who are listening to my channel, they won't think, oh my gosh, I'm a failure, because you know, if I can't make it in second year, that means I'll never make it in CTA. Now you bring that light that, you know what, you're not alone. Like, you're not alone. Like, people struggle in first year, people struggle in second year, people struggle in third year. Like, it happens at different levels. But then when it comes to that, I like the fact that, like I'm saying, you spoke about so many things that I think I wonder if whoever is watching this is taking notes, because you have, you know, you took so many lessons from what happened. And I like how, you know, you were able to go through the emotions of, like, you know, I just want to give everything. And then you were also able to highlight what went wrong, whether you were like, I was not serious with my studies. I knew that I'm struggling with accounting, but I didn't pay attention to it. And kept saying that is one of the things that I struggle with when it comes to coaching students, and we'll also talk about the fact that you are a coach as well. So that's the one thing, and I'm sure you can relate when it comes to us talking to our clients. That's the first step, because most of our clients would say, and we've been there, so we understand. It's not like we're judging them. So most of the clients would say, I've been doing everything that I can and I keep on failing this. You know, most of them get to that point where, like, they don't want to sit and be like, this is the truth. I did this and I wasn't giving attention to accounting. That's why I repeated it. So I really like the fact that you actually highlighted that, because that's actually the turning point when you realize what went wrong. Because what usually happens is that if you don't realize what went wrong, you're gonna keep on doing the very same things and keep on saying the system just doesn't support me. So I love that. And I love the fact that you also got to a point where you're like, you know what, something has to change so that everything else can change. Because if I keep on doing the same things, you know, I might do second year, I don't know, 5 times, right? And other people do because of the fact that they don't get to that point where they are taking accountability. And then the last one that you mentioned is the fact that you were not alone. That's the one, you know, when you are in varsity, you feel like everyone else has it figured out. You feel like 100%. Everyone else is passing, everyone else has a balanced life, everyone else has it all figured out except from you. I think that's like the one thing that we all struggle with, because I know I still struggled with it. And even now, we still struggle with it. Like myself, 100%. You, we are owning, you know, our own businesses. And, you know, I'm sure you also find yourself in times where you feel like all other businesses, everyone else is just doing so well. It's just you. You're like, clearly there's something wrong with me. So I like the fact that you realize that I'm not the only one. Like, I'm not the only one who failed second year. Or even if you are a student and you failed first year, you are not the only one. So you have to realize that there are other people who are going through that, and actually finding that support system and actually actively working through it to get to wherever you need to get to. Is like the key thing. So I love those lessons, and I hope everyone is taking notes, because you gave us more lessons, but obviously I can't go through all of them now. So that is actually quite interesting. That is really,
can I add? I would like to add that, you know, you mentioned that I struggled with second year. I mean, I did mention that. And I would like to also add that it wasn't the only year, in fact. that I struggled with. Even after I'd learned that lesson that I learned, I had to then go through CTA. And everyone knows CTA is not for the faint-hearted. You know, it's a very, very tough course. But what I had done at that point is I had told myself that I need to pass CTA. I mean, we struggled in the beginning. You know, you get those marks and you're shocked. You're like, wow, I thought I could pass everything, and then you fail. And that's CTA. It's just designed that way for some reason. But I think what helped me through CTA was telling myself that I already passed CTA. Even before I started, and I had to be disciplined, obviously. I had to be consistent with my studies. Like I said, I then had to take responsibility, right? Fast forward, ITC is perfect, it's fine. Fast forward, APC. Woo! APC, at this point, I don't even know, I can't tell you how I was, my mental state at that point, because it was a tough year. It was really a tough year. And I failed. Even the lowest of lows, I failed the board course. Now, imagine how embarrassing that must be for a trainee. You never hear of other trainees failing board courses. You hear what I mean? Like, that is not something that's common. So at that point, I did feel like, wow, I am alone. I failed by myself, and everyone else passed around me. So that was also another turning point where I had to say, okay, what went wrong? But then this time, it was my mental state that I had to take care of, which is what we'll discuss in detail. So yeah, the journey is a tough one.
That's the thing. And I think Nthabiseng, especially for most aspiring chartered accountants who are watching this, that's the thing. Like, it's like we think it's 7 years, you know, I'm going to study pass. But then there are just so many other elements that are coming to play, because life is happening as you're going through all of this. And when you spoke about CTA, I like the fact that you said you went into it telling yourself, you know what, I've passed. Like, I love that, because and what you keep on repeating, which is something that I live by as well, is the fact that I believe in cause and effect. I believe that, you know, my decisions will see me through it. Like, I'll make it happen, because, you know, I know for sure it's already there. It's already there for me to experience. But then I have to put in the effort. I have to take all these responsibilities. I have to actually sacrifice all of these things so that it can happen. So I really, really like that. And then let's move on to APC. Oh my God. I like what you just said, because that is something that people don't talk about. And I don't know if it's because we are chartered accountants, because I've seen so many doctors, especially on Instagram and all of that, and everyone is talking about mental health, you know, they're talking about mental health during lockdown and all of these things. But then I feel like when it comes to the work environment, especially because now you're at BDO, because I remember even me when I was at Mazal, because it's much smaller, so you have, the trainees are not as, you know, the pool of trainees is not as big as in your B4 and all of that. So it's highly probable that you might be in a pool whereby you are the only one who's failing the board course, of which even when I failed ITC, I don't know if I was the only one or it was just the two of us, but it felt like I was alone. So let's talk about that. That, because you did say that you felt alone, of which that's what happens, because now you're not at university where there are like so many other people that you can see. Now you're at a training firm. And what people don't realize is that now it's different, because it's not like, you know, you're studying, you're going back home. Like, now you are studying as well as working. You're working with clients. You are a second year. You're working with other second years in the same team. They've passed. And then now you're thinking, everyone is thinking, do I even know what I'm doing? Like, do I, like, it, like, people are, you even thinking, people are questioning what you're saying when you go into the client. Like, oh my gosh, if she can't write emails on APC, what's happening? Maybe she should see us in everything.
Exactly.
Right? So I can only imagine. So let's jump into it. Let's jump into, you know, just going through APC and actually getting to realize that it was mental health. How did you get to the point where you realized that actually this was the issue? And you know, what did you do about it?
Yeah. So what happened was, I go through the year, I'm doing the board course, and in my mind, everything is going smoothly. I'm studying as much as I can, I'm thinking, and I'm doing the work that I can. And like you mentioned, you're working and you're studying at the same time. So you have to now balance the two, because we didn't have that in the beginning. We only had a full-time studies, right? Now you have to make sure that with ITC as well, you have your work and you have your studies. So that it was that balance for me. That was number one, that was stressing me out. I was very stressed all the time because, you know, you're on, like you say, with a small, medium firm size firm, you have smaller, less trainees. You know, sometimes you are actually more in charge of audits at a second year level even. So the pressure is really a lot more. And at that point, I was on huge clients. You know, when you're on these big clients, you work overtime, you work excessive hours, you barely have time for yourself, and you barely have time for your studies as well. So I'm thinking, oh, I'll just study on the weekend. It should be good enough. I understand what I need to do, so it should be fine. Then I say, okay, along, but then the marks are not correlating to what I'm putting in. So I'm like, what's happening here? And it didn't hit me until after writing the last board exam, the board exam, the, what do you call it? Not the actual board exam, but the exam that qualifies. Yes, the mock exam, the one that qualifies you to write the APC exam. So it wasn't until when after that, when I failed it and I said, wow, what was going through my mind? But I can tell you, I can't remember half that year because I was not in my mind. I was not present in my studies. Yes, I would study. Yes, I would, you know, do a few practice exams. I would meet with my group, in fact. And to me, it felt like I was studying and I knew what I was doing. But it wasn't until later then I realized I actually did not take my mind. I was not mentally, holistically ready and prepared. I might have been prepared for the work itself, and I had the stresses of life. I had my own emotions that I was dealing with in terms of my stress levels, in terms of I had been in an accident that year, so I was recovering from that. I was, you know, going through a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety. But in my mind, I thought, I can just put that to the side and just focus on my studies. But what I didn't realize is that mentally, I was not present in my exam. Yes, I was there reading the question and answering what I thought was okay, but I was not the level at which my whole state was not working optimally so that I can really work to the best of my ability in the exam. I know it's tough to understand because not a lot of people also, they don't tap into that side of them. You know, you go through what you're going through and you say, it's fine. It's part of that. It's not part of work. It's not part of my studies, but it is part of your studies because that's who you are. You are the whole person with everything that's happening around you. So, and one thing we all know about board exams is that they take a lot out of you. They take everything out of you, even when you are so exhausted, but you are exhausted in all aspects, physically, mentally, you know, you're just exhausted. So you need to be so full and so ready and so mentally aware of what's happening with you so that when you actually do write your exam, you are clear-minded, you are focused on actually what is happening in this exam. That is one of the ways that people miss the small tricks in exams, because we go in and we say, I'm ready, but I'm going through, but I'm ready. But you're not, because if you were ready, you would have picked up that small trick that they put in there. That's the difference between a pass and a fail, you see. So it's very tricky. It's a bit tricky to understand, but we can go in as much depth as possible about it. In fact, I will also go on my side with my own YouTube channel to really get in the depth of it and help aspiring CAs understand what it means to go on the journey holistically. Yeah.
I love that because and I get you when you say it's not like everyone gets it. Like not everyone gets it. And I think it's because of the fact that, you know, most of the times people who are aspiring CAs, you know, you've been doing so well from matric and everything, and in high school you could memorize, go right and pass type of, you know. But then as you're going through life, and now it's varsity and now it's board exams and all of that, there's a lot that's coming into play. And now it's not a whole thing of memorizing and just putting, you know, whatever you memorize. Like it has to be all of you, like in order for you to engage with the scenario, because that's the thing. During reading time, you can't just be reading and thinking, I'm going to read an answer. It doesn't work like that. You have to actively engage with the scenario. And if you're not actively engaging with the scenario, and even during your 5 days, you were not present. Yes, you're taking in the information, preparing the file, but then you're not present and you're not engaging as that newly qualified that you have to be, as you're always assuming that role. Then, you know, so, okay, let's see how we're going to tackle this, because people have to come and actually, you know, we have to be on the same page with whoever is actually watching this. So, I like the fact that you know, you're the type of person who always reflects. Like you always reflect and you're like, you know, what happened? And that's why you are able to say, you know, I went through an accident. I was exhausted because I was working, like leading audits and everything. And I didn't actually sit down and be like, this is affecting me as a whole person. This is affecting, you know, my spirit, my energy levels, my productivity levels. It's affecting everything. And as a result, this is going to actually affect everything, right? So when it comes to that, let's just also take it a step further. So at the beginning, I said to people, they'll know why we're here. Because I'm always talking about, I'm always inviting people for the journey to CA, so that people can understand, you know, different people's journey to CA, because we are from different backgrounds. And I like the fact that even your story is like totally different. I've never actually had someone where like the grandfather is so woke. So I love how your journey is quite different, and there'll be a number of people who can relate to your story as well. But then the key thing, just to take it a step further, the reason we reunited was because of the fact that I saw that you have a new venture, which is CA2B. That is the name of your company. And that is why I actually came in contact with you, because I looked at what you do and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And this is, you know, it works so well with what we're trying to do at Novel Learning Center. So at Novel Learning Center, we specialize in student coaching, of which it's basically coaching you so that you pass your exams, you know, your exam technique and all of that. And I saw that actually you do touch on that, you do touch on some tutoring, but then the particular one that I saw that we don't offer at Novel Learning Center was actually the fact that you help the students with their mental health during their exam preparation, especially ITC and APC candidates. So that's when I was like, Nthabiseng has to come and actually let us know what the students have to do here, because this is an issue. Like, this is an issue, yet so many people, one, are not aware. Two, when they're aware, they don't know what to do, right? So I like the fact that you became aware because you are a person who is always reflecting, right? So now, just to also take it back, Guys, remember Nthabiseng is a chartered accountant. She's a director at CA2B, and she's also a life coach, right? And in your coaching, because you do have your coaching certificate as well, you focus most of your energy in actually coaching the aspiring chartered accountants, right? So
Correct.
in doing that, so let's say you do have a client, right? You do have a client, your client is an ITC candidate or an APC candidate. They've been repeating, or even if they haven't been repeating, they've just been anxious, and they're just like, okay, I think it has to do with the fact that, you know, my mental clarity, my mental health is not at par. Like, how does anyone get to a point whereby they do realize that they should be paying attention to this? Or do you feel like this is something that we should all be paying attention to it? It's just that we just don't realize that, you know, we're just not doing anything about it. And even if so, like, even if you can get to a point whereby you realize that, okay, what's really wrong is the fact that I don't have any mental clarity, then what do you do then?
I like what you mentioned about the fact that a lot of people don't know that that's what's happening to them, because as a matter of fact, that's exactly what the problem is whether you are repeating or you're a first timer and you're going through what you're going through, it's as simple as when you're preparing for your studies, you can't even come to your desk and sit down and look at the work without having these thoughts of self-doubt or any fear, even the fear, you have fears that come up or anxieties that come up. And what happens after that is that, yes, you will try to study, but like I said, you won't be fully engaged in your studies, A, or B, you'll just ignore those feelings and then you'll just carry on as you were. Or you can even just say, hi, it's too much for me, I give up, right? And it's at that point where people don't realize and they don't have that clarity, that mental clarity as to say, but what is the actual problem here, right? So what I do is, a lot of people approach me and they say, I'm struggling with my studies. It's always struggling with my studies. And I say, fine, that's totally understandable, because we all, at some point or another, whether you were an A+ student when you were in matric or even through varsity, at some point in the CA journey, that something will just tip you over. And then it's at that point where you say, okay, but what is the problem here? And then you say, I struggle with my studies. But what you don't realize is that, yes, you are struggling with your studies, but you are also struggling with yourself. And people don't want to see themselves. They don't see themselves. They see themselves as studying. They don't see themselves as, I have to come, as Nthabiseng, and sit at my desk and open this past paper and go through it and see why I failed. People don't have that. So what I help to do is to help you see the truth of what is happening to you at that point in time. Fair enough, you could honestly just be struggling with the concepts, which is perfectly fine. Then we tutor you. Then we do exam technique. And in that way, then you approach the exam in a different way. But most times it's really, honestly, I've repeated 5 times, 3 times, and I don't know why I'm not passing, like you said. And most of the time, it's really because you have this mental block. You blocked yourself from actually believing that you can pass, because you've had all these past failures that are still sitting on your shoulders, and you hadn't faced those mental blocks. And in order for you to move forward and to open your mind and pass and study and pass, you actually have to face those past failures. So like you said, I'm a very reflective person. I think it's in me to be so reflective, and I'm really grateful for that, because I'm one person, I've made my mistakes too. I really have made my mistakes, and I was grateful for the fact that I could open my eyes and say, okay, but why? Why are you struggling with this? Is it really the work? Because I do understand the work. What else could it be? And not a lot of people know how to dig in to themselves and to dig deep in themselves and understand that that is the issue. So that's what I try to do. I just try to help you see that you have the value, you have the ability. You just have to have a clear and focused state of mind to do that.
I love that, Nthabiseng, because that's what most students say. When you started, you did say that, it can look like procrastination, where you just can't get yourself to get to the desk. That was the first thing. And the other thing that I always pick up is, the fear of actually attempting questions. Why? Because whenever you attempt a question and you mark it and you don't get it right, what is that? That's rejection. And exactly. I love how you linked it to the fact that so many people are dealing with their limiting beliefs and they're dealing with all of this history of rejection. But then because they haven't dealt with that, they can't even deal with attempting a 15-marker tutorial, because if they get it wrong, that is rejection. Exactly. And actually getting yourself to that place whereby you do understand that it's not only about this 15-marker question, but it's actually about rejection. And it's actually about the fact that I haven't dealt with the rejection that I've been doing, like something that I left when I was like 7 years old, yet, like it keeps on coming back. But because I haven't dealt with it, that is why I can't get to a point where I study to an extent that, I have this belief that actually I can pass ITC or I can pass APC because, because in me, in as much as, when you talk to people, you're like, yeah, I think this year it'll go well. But then sometimes you can have just words, but then you don't deeply believe it and you don't bring yourself to the table to, your actions and everything. Because I like what you said when you said, yes, you're struggling with studies, but also, you're struggling with self. And that's why people kept on saying during lockdown, so many people were being depressed because so many people, like, they're not like me and you, where we always reflecting. They like to check it out and be like, like it's all about escaping,
Exactly.
And the thing is, I'm not judging people, and I know as a coach as well, you don't judge, like we don't judge, but then we do see patterns, especially when you have to do something important, but then you just like, because maybe you have to, like, maybe as a student, let's say you are an ITC candidate and you have to keep on practicing, but because you won't get it right and all of that, then for some reason, even if you are not at the most hectic client, whenever you have time, you'd rather work on the client, or during the weekend, you'd rather go see your friends or do everything else except doing that.
That's true.
Most of the time, it's because of the fact that, one, you haven't gotten to that point where you like, actually, me as a person, like, I'm struggling with this and this and this and this. And once you figured all that out, then you can actually bring yourself to do the things, because now you'll understand the truth. I like what you said when you say you help people see the truth, because they get to that point where they're like, actually, it's not that I don't know all of this, especially if you're writing like ITC and APC. You went through minimum 4 years of studies, like, everything that is being tested. The key thing is, the issue itself. So I really, really, really love that. And let's talk about actually how you actually help the clients, and maybe if you can give us a tip or two on, maybe a student who thinks, they've been procrastinating and all of these things, and they can just get themselves to do the work, and they do believe, and they know, because remember, you can sit here for so long, but then they know, like, that's what I said the other time on my Instagram. I was like, guys, when you are not doing enough, or when you are not, just not doing what you have to do, you can lie to us, you can do whatever, you can post pictures with books, you can do whatever, but if you are not doing the, like, as a person, like, it's, that's what I, like, I always say that to the happy as well, like, even me, because at times, like, yes, I'll be posting that, okay, I'm working on this, and at the same time, I'm like, there are like weeks where I'm working so hard and I'm not even posting a picture. So that's what I keep on telling people, that, whether I do something or I don't, I know deeply. So there's someone out there who is not studying, who's been procrastinating. But when they're speaking to people, they're like, I've done everything that I could, I don't know what's wrong. But then they know they can't get themselves to do that, right? So what do you think? Like, maybe if you can give us a tip, what what's the first thing that they can do so that they can get to that point where they do realize that, okay, maybe this is the issue or that is the issue.
Yes.
And once they figured out that, okay, like it really has to do with that, then, you know, what's maybe a daily or weekly, you know, routine or something that they can start doing to actually start preparing? Because I don't think everyone can afford your services, but we'll talk about how people can can reach you. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
what can they do?
Yes, no, that's a very good question. And most of the time it depends on the person themselves. So that's why I do one-on-one sessions, because everyone is different and everyone has different struggles. So what I like to do is really get to understand my clients to a very, very intimate level, in as much intimacy as they allow me also to know. One thing that the life coaching, certification taught me as well is that a lot of people shy away from taking responsibility for themselves and for their studies. And this is very important because the CA journey is not only about studying. A lot of people think it's about the books, that's it. It's really not. It's about building your character. That's really, really what CA is about. It's about the character that comes out at the end of it. And what I like to do is help you realize that, number one, that this is not about only the books. It's really about you as a person, where you want to go, your growth in terms of, being a CA, but also being a mentally stable CA. And what I like to do is, yes, I get to know my clients. We talk in depth about what is happening. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people don't realize that they have to look at themselves, like I mentioned, look at themselves first. So really, I'm here to coach, to support and to guide, to make sure that you see that it's really not just about the books, but it really is about what you're going through as a person. And then once people open their eyes to that, then they see, oh, okay, so if I deal with this one thing in terms of my mental state, then maybe I can do better with my studies. I'll give you an example. I had a friend who was struggling very much with APC, and she gave up and she said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't understand why I keep failing. And I said, but what is going on in your life right now? What is happening? I said, no, I'm working long hours. I am stressed. The work environment is also not the best work environment. It's a bit toxic. I try to stay away from that word, but it happens. You won't always work in a very glamorous and amazing place. Sometimes you do work with people who make it very difficult for you to work. And she was telling me that she had to deal with that. That was very strenuous on her life. She struggled at home because she couldn't go home and cook for herself or her family. And because she had to work, or if it's not work, it's studies. So I said, okay, so how do we find a way for you to make all of these things in your life work for you so that you can be better able to study? For example, when it comes to work, sometimes you really just have to face the music and say, let me just stick it out, But you have to come to that decision. You have to realize, okay, my work environment is not helping me. What am I going to do about it? Fine, that's number one. Number two, you don't have time. People, they like this excuse. No, I don't have time. I don't have time. What do you mean you don't have? We all have the same 24 hours. Okay, I sound like Chivo Touch, I'm sorry, but we really do. And it really does depend on how much time you take for yourself, because people do not take time for themselves. And with that, it means that when you wake up one day and you're like, yo, I cannot get out of this bed. I am exhausted. I am drained. I cannot do this. Just getting up in the morning is it's not working for me. So what's wrong with taking that one day to just sleep? What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it. You are taking time for yourself, for your body to rest, because this is your body. You treat it like you treat your mind. You treat it like you treat any other part of your body. You have to take time to rest, and people don't like to rest. So I make sure that I help you to find the best way for you to rest, you know. And what else? Yeah, just exercise as well, finding things that light your fire. So sometimes the CA journey can be it can be very strenuous to the point where you can't do anything else. And you feel like you're just overwhelmed. That's another thing. Being overwhelmed is a serious, serious problem. So we have to find a way. How do we have a structure for your life so that you have time to rest? You have time to do the things that you love. You know, yes, you can go out with your friends. There's nothing wrong with that. But you must obviously do it in moderation. Take the time. You say, okay, I go out on Friday, but on Saturday, I make sure I study. So that way we try to find a good balance for you, you see. So it really is all about finding the right balance for you as a person, and making sure that you're not only just studying, but you're also having fun, or you're also doing the things, small things that you enjoy doing, like reading or, you know, exercising. People, they struggle. I can't exercise. I don't have time. Wake up and go and exercise. Say I'm going, this is my hour and it's for exercise only. And you'll be very, very surprised at what happens after you do that. So that's really how I help my clients.
I really, 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 really like that. And I love how you highlighted that, especially from your coaching certification. The greatest lesson was that, you know, you always have to remember that people just don't want to take responsibility. And like, I really, really, really like, because that's like the first thing before anything else. The other time, actually, on my Instagram, I was talking about the fact that, because ever since I started my coaching business, I got to a point where, you know, I had students where like approaching me and they didn't have the fees, and we'll talk about, you know, because one-to-one coaching, I do acknowledge the fact that it is quite pricey and not everyone can afford it. Like, I do acknowledge that, and that is why I do group coaching as well. I'm actually going to ask you if you do offer like group coaching as well.
Yes.
But what I was saying is that there were students who, you know, like, they were like, oh, I need help and all of that. And I was like, okay, I'll help you. But then, weird enough, we started and I gave them complimentary services. And after the first meeting, where they see that, okay, I have to take the responsibility. Like, when it's the coach and the coachee relationship, I have to take responsibility. I have to like book my meetings. And I'm not gonna sit and be like, do this. Like, you know, it's all about us understanding what you're going through, and you, because the answers are within you. I can't just say, I did just do it, because, you know, I'm not a trainer, I'm a coach, you know. And that's what I realized, that I have students who only came for the first session, and when they realize the amount of responsibility they have to take, MIA. MIA. They didn't come back for the second meeting, even though it was for free. Nthabiseng, they didn't come back. Why? Because they didn't want to take responsibility. And I'm always so shocked. I'm like, did that really happen? Wow. So I really, really like that. And I like the fact that you said, for someone who's going through this, like, the first thing that they have to understand that it's not necessarily the books, because this whole thing is, you know, it's testing your character. So you have to separate the books from the person. So I really, really like the fact that you were saying that's what you help your clients with. And if maybe there's someone who wants to like get in contact with you, now they know that, you know, like, that's what you're going to help them do. And maybe if they didn't know, because so many people struggle to actually, other people do, I think so many people, other people are going to hear it for the first time, that it's not necessarily about the books, but then you have to separate, you know, the whole person from the books, because when the person is whole, this is so easy to tackle. Like, it's so easy to tackle. And I like how you were speaking about the fact that, you know, so many, because I know, especially with my ITC clients as well, they always talking about, oh my gosh, deadlines. I wasn't able to do this and this and this and this. And you spoke about something important where you're saying you have to get to a point where you're like, what is saving me and what is not saving me? And at this point, I have to sit this out. Like, I just have to sit out of this one because, you know, I can't do it. Like, I've done my bit here. And quite frankly, like, I don't want to say it like this, but most of the times you are being paid. Like, I do have a video on Instagram whereby I was saying you are being paid to be productive within the 8 hours. All you have to do is to try to be so productive during those hours. If you're not productive, it is your responsibility to actually, you know, work those hours in. But if you know for sure you've been so productive, and other people, you know, it's either the budget or it's the client or whatever, you have to get to a point where you are communicating all of these things and you can prioritize what you need to prioritize. So I like the fact that you highlighted that, because so many people don't want to get to that point where they're like, this is saving me, this is not saving me. And actually there I was wrong, so I have to work during the weekend. But here I did everything that I could, so it doesn't make sense for me to actually work during the weekend and do this and this and this and this. So that was important. And also, because I help so many of my clients do study plans, I like the fact that you said, you know, I don't have time. Like, they always say I don't have, because I hear it so many times.
Hey, that's a favorite line. Eh? I hear it and I'm like...
Like, and I like the fact that you said you have to take time for yourself. You have to take time for exercise, because even when we are doing study plans with my clients, like, that's what I'm always saying. I'm like, okay, let's do a study plan. When is your rest day? And like, what? Suddenly, we meant to be doing a study plan. What do you mean rest day?
Rest day.
I'm like, you need a rest day. Like, how are you gonna, you know, like, one of the things that I always advise students is that you need a rest day, you need a reflection day. Because when are you gonna bring everything together? If you just always running, when are you gonna go, whether you arrived at a certain place or you didn't arrive at a certain place, or whether you are fine or you're not fine, or all of that? Because people, especially when they start studying and they start failing, they even, maybe others are like Christians or whichever one, I'm not favoring one, like when it comes to your religion, other people have been going through that, but when they get to varsity, they just leave it. It's like now they just leave it. They forget about faith. And when you forget about faith, guess what? Fear will always win, because you always need faith to conquer fear. So I love all of these things. And because when I'm hearing them, I know it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, these are like great things. But I always wonder, I'm like, are the students hearing what I'm hearing? So that's why I have to like repeat it and be like, but did you hear all of these amazing things Nthabiseng highlighted here? Yeah. Because those are like the key things. So okay, so let's just wrap this up. You mentioned one thing. You mentioned that you are taking clients for coaching sessions, and you also mentioned something about the fact that you'll be talking about all of this on your YouTube channel. Woo! Which is exciting. I really like, I've been watching so many South African YouTubers, and I like how I feel like now South African YouTubers are being recognized abroad. Like, I like how, like, now even the rate of growth is not as big as it used to. So, you know, like I'm quite excited to hear that actually you are starting a YouTube channel, or you have started actually. Correct me, have you started or you are about to start?
No, I'm about to start. So I was just focusing mostly on CA to B and getting the right business model, making sure that I'm giving my clients the best, you know, services that I can give them. Then after that, then I will focus on my YouTube channel. But that is definitely coming within the next week.
Awesome. Awesome. Oh, okay. Before 2020 ends. So that is quite exciting. So what will you be talking about on the YouTube channel? Are you going to talk about mostly these type of topics, or is it mostly just going to be lifestyle, and then you're just going to give this type of topic?
So my channel is solely going to be focused on aspiring CAs, on uplifting trainees, students, on the CA journey as a whole. I'm going to be breaking it down from start to finish, varsity days, all the way through to actually writing your APC exam. I'll be also focusing, as you know me, as much as possible on mental health. I think it's a very, very, it's not a topic that's spoken about often, especially in our field. And I know I can't tell you the reason why, but I know that I have recognized that it's an important topic. And I want aspiring CAs to know that it is something to focus on, and it's worth focusing on, because that will create the best value for you as a CA. You won't just be a CA, but you will be a CA who is all-rounded, who is prepared for anything in this world. And that is exactly what I want to do. I just want to make sure that as CAs, we are taking space and in the right state of mind. That's what I'm going to be focusing on.
I can't wait. I can't wait to actually see your new YouTube channel. And obviously, I know you're going to share the link with me so that I can share it on my Instagram as well. And then when it comes to CA2B, how can people get in touch with you if they want one-to-one sessions? And do you also offer any group coaching sessions?
Yes, you asked that. I do offer group coaching sessions. I try to keep the mental and emotional aspect of it individual, but if it's something that has to do more with, you know, how to approach questions, how to prepare yourself for the actual exam in terms of having the best study plan, having the best environment, creating the environment for you to study, then I do those in groups. I also tutor in groups, exam technique as well, in groups as well. And then the best way to reach me, I have a Facebook page for CA2B. It's the Facebook website, www.facebook.com/chartered accountant 2, like the number 2, and the capital letter B. That is the best way to reach me. I am also on Instagram. My handle is at it's Nthabi. Sorry about that. At it's Nthabi _ and I'm also on Twitter at it's Nthabi. That's it. Yeah.
Awesome. So you can just send me the links, and then I'll pop them in the description 100%. So that people can just click and follow you on that. Awesome. This is great. So lastly, because this is exam series, for all the students who are preparing for the exams, all the aspiring chartered accountants from undergrad to the APC students who will be writing in December, what would what's your advice to them? What do you think they should maybe start doing or start considering so that it can, set them up for success? What would be your best tips for them?
My best tip for an aspiring CA at any level is to sit down with yourself and really try to understand why it is you want to be a CA. And I think once you do that, it will make your journey a lot more clearer. Your eyes will be more open to say, okay, what is it that I want to achieve from being a chartered accountant? And if I want to achieve that exact thing, what do I need to do that? You could be just studying, and that could be one of the things you can be doing, but maybe you should be doing something else. Maybe, you should be going to church more, maybe having more faith, like you said, because faith is a very, very big part of mental health as well, or just your health in general, a spiritual health as well. So I would say really, really understand what it is you want to achieve. What do you want to gain out of being a CA? Sit with yourself. And these are tough conversations, but they are the best conversations to have in order for you to really unlock all the potential that you have in you. Because we all have that capability. All of us, I started, and remember I told you, I was like, I don't think this is for me. And then I look at Zanele and she's flying colors, and I'm like, rather Zanele than me. But why not me? Why should I limit myself? Find that one thing that says you can do it. Just find the push, the motivation for you to do it, and you'll be Chartered Accountant South Africa.
Awesome. I love that. And I know the regular subscribers and people who are also following me know that I'm actually jumping up and down in my mind, because that's what I always remind them. I'm always like, start with why, know your why. Because if you don't know your why, where are you going? Where?
Exactly. We are going, it's a journey. You need to have directions. You need to ask, you need to stop and look at the map. Where are you going?
I love that. I love that. And I love the fact that you said, you know, if not you, then who? Like, who deserves that? Like, who deserves that? And there's a reason why you started it. There's actually a reason why you started it. And you know, for the mere fact that they even took you on at varsity, for the mere fact that for people who are struggling with board exams, for the mere fact that you even got through varsity, if not you, then who?
Then
oh my
who?
gosh, I love that.
Exactly.
I love that. So I think now we're gonna close the video, unless if you do have any other closing remarks, but then I will link down everything where people can actually reach you, and then they can also join your Facebook group as well. You actually have to help me set up a Facebook group. Like, I'm so terrible with Facebook groups. I've been trying to set it up, so I'm glad that now I have someone who actually understands.
You help me with YouTube, I'll help you with Facebook.
Tutoring. That's the plan. Okay, so for everyone, thank you for actually reaching the end. It has been like over an hour, but I know for sure it has been like super helpful. We got to know about Nthabiseng, we got to know about CA2B, and we got to know about everything that has to do with mental health. But obviously, if you want to know more, do follow Nthabiseng, especially when it comes to mental health, especially when it comes to mental health on your journey to becoming a chartered accountant. I really do think she is that person who understands it. And when it comes to also tutoring, all of that, exam technique and all of that, there's like a pool of everything. In as much as yes, we do offer it at Novel Learning Center, guess what? There is CA2B as well. I am so excited when actually I do have people who I know that, because you know, time is, especially with one-to-one coaching type thing, there are limited days and we can take limited amount of clients. So if we are doing the same thing, I like the fact that if I can do it, I can be like, oh my gosh, go to Nthabiseng. And I know for sure Nthabiseng is going to help me, because she even has, you know, a thing or two that I've never even touched on. So I'm so grateful that you are actually in this industry and we are here to hold hands and help the students. So guys, in so saying, bye and thank you. Please subscribe.
Thank you.
Like the video, do the nice things, and then I'll see you on the flip side. And maybe we can come back and have another video once you actually started your YouTube thing, so that we can, you know, collab on this side, collab on that side.
100%. Thank you so much, Zanele. I really appreciate this opportunity. I hope the students really gain something from this. Do not be afraid, guys. Do not be scared. Just, you know, you have us, Zanele and I. We are here to help each other, build each other up, and that is the goal. So thank you so much, Zanele, for this platform as well. You're doing God's work, my lady. Awesome work.
Thank you, Nthabiseng. Okay, bye.
Bye.